Hello, my name is Anne, your guide to when animals get even. If you like bloodthirsty animals getting back at humanity, then it is a laugh out snout good idea for you to subscribe now for more. Now today's animal has some thoughts about constantly being asked, why the long face? It's giant anteaters. We'll start in Brazil. We have a 54-year-old man who perished after being attacked by a giant anteater in a rural area of Brazil. Now, he was out looking for his dogs who had cornered the animal because he was hunting it? I don't know if he was hunting it or if his dogs had just cornered it, but based on some of the other stuff you're gonna hear, think he might have been hunting it. Soldiers and fire department personnel found him laying with punctures and lacerated wounds on all four limbs, and he had severe bleeding from the right thigh, which is, of course, where the femoral artery is. And even without severing the artery, if you hit and any part of the vein that's connected to it, directly, it can still cause profuse bleeding. This severe bleeding was also happening 4 hours after the attack, so we can go ahead and say, that's a lot of blood. The firefighters tried to stabilize the victim with saline to maintain the blood volume, but unfortunately, cardiac arrest and hypovolemic shock did get to him. From the medical examiner report, we know there were 2 perforating contused wounds in the right forearm. Both were measuring about 2 centimeters in length, which is, it sounds small, but there was another such wound on the right leg measuring around 3 centimeters. The last wound was that one located on the upper third portion of the right thigh. That one was 3 centimeters in diameter. So again, even though to us, we might think that's so tiny, because of the intensity of the armament that caused the injury, we can still infer that it was exceptionally painful. Yeah. Even if it's short in length, we're not talking about depth, you know what I mean? So there's some other factors in play besides just the length of the wound. But these wounds are apparently consistent with previous giant anteater attack victims. I didn't know I would ever be entertaining concerns about giant anteater attacks, but here we are. My question for you is simple. What seemingly innocuous wild animal that, is just out there minding its own business, do you know a crazy fact about that suddenly turns it into something concerning? Let me know in the comments. In Argentina, a young zookeeper working on a giant anteater conservation project sadly passed when she was attacked by an anteater who mauled her abdomen and legs, which I guess the human abdomen is about the same general consistency as an anthill. I don't know, that's what they use their claws on, so I'm just well, okay. Her injuries were very serious, and she was admitted into the hospital with already in critical condition. According to the doctors, they had actually tried to amputate one of her legs that wasn't going to be salvageable. It's a really weird situation because there's a ton of conflicting random information out there. So we have a zoo worker who is outright calling the attack an accident. We have other workers that are stating they didn't see the attack. We have different reports saying it's a male anteater. No, a female anteater. No, an anteater in heat. No, an anteater protecting offspring. The water is muddy. We have no idea what's actually going on there. Could not find clarification. But yeah, so she didn't make it. We have 2 separate instances with 2 separate hunters that resulted in mortal combat.
Fatality.
You see, both farmers were hunting. We've already gone over that. And both were attacked by wounded or cornered animals. In the first instance, we have a 47-year-old. He was out with his two sons and his hunting dogs. And they came across a giant anteater in northern Brazil. In this case, the anteater was cornered by the dogs, and because he didn't want to risk shooting the dogs, he decided to go in with a knife towards the anteater. This is a reminder to always equip the proper weaponry. Yeah, the anteater stood up on its hind legs, wrestled the man with its forelimbs, which resulted in deep puncture wounds in his thighs, upper thighs, and his upper arms. Always with the thighs, huh? So the guy, he oozed out at the scene. The other case is a 75-year-old man in 2010. The anteater used its really long front claws again and punctured the femoral artery located near the upper thigh, groin area. And, yeah, punctured it, There's no context for if this anteater was wounded or cornered, just that the guy, he went down. Yep. The end. For him. The next animal attack is in Brazil again. So, I guess we only had one attack that wasn't in Brazil. But still. So, we have a 52-year-old man who gets brought to the emergency room because his brother finds him unconscious in a rural area after being attacked by a giant anteater while hunting. So, he gets admitted with just massive trauma to the arm. But he gets repaired. He recovers well, and then he's heading on out. So then we wonder, how did this happen? Because everyone else who's had this anteater encounter has not fared so well. How is this guy doing all right? How did he get into a fight with an anteater and A, live, and B, end up passed out? Well, turns out this guy had a long history of very poorly controlled epilepsy. So the theory is that probably what happened is, as the anteater was initially fighting back or attacking or whatever, he had a grand mal seizure, and that caused him to pass out. Knocked him unconscious. And I think that might have actually been what saved his life. Because if I was an anteater fighting a guy, I too would feel like my work was done as soon as he dropped like a sack of potatoes, I'd just be like, all right, great. My work is done. Ambled off. Okay, here we go. 1. Don't hunt giant anteaters. 2. If you do hunt giant anteaters, do not approach them. 3. If you approach the giant anteater after hunting it, do not allow it near your thighs. 4. Giant anteaters are particularly skilled at getting your femoral artery or thereabouts. 5. The human form is very similar to an anthill when it comes to the giant anteater. There we go. That is my foolproof advice for not getting taken out by a giant anteater. Unless you work at a zoo and there's a tragic accident with zero actual answers in the context of what really happened. Hooray! If you liked this video and you want more bloodthirsty animal content, then subscribe right now! I am here Sundays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. Bye! There's no context for if this anteater was wounded or cornered, just that the guy, he went down. Yep. The end. For him.
Fatality.